thyroid disease is becoming more and more common. I see so many statistics with more people getting diagnosed with things like hypothyroidism, things like Hashimoto's. So I wanted to go over with you why it is so important to dig for root causes, and then even go over some of the functional lab testing that I personally use in my practice that helped me on my own journey and helped me with my clients. So first of all, what is root cause investigation? I know this can seem very, very daunting at times when you're trying to figure out, well, what's my root cause? I will say that most of the time for the majority of people, there isn't one root cause. Usually it is root causes. It's usually plural. There's usually more than one or two things going on. Sometimes it can be even more than that. But when we're thinking about root cause, we are looking at deeper levels. So instead of just looking at things face value, like for example, on blood, we can get a lot of information from blood testing, like your thyroid markers, if you have thyroid antibodies. But just because you have thyroid hormones present, or maybe you don't have thyroid antibodies, it doesn't mean that you're using your thyroid hormones appropriately. And so that's how a lot of people can actually still have a ton of symptoms that looks like a slow thyroid, or looks like they have a hormone imbalance or things like that, but they're sitting there being told that their panel looks completely normal, that their blood testing looks good, because there hasn't been a further investigation. So when we're thinking about root cause, we are looking at underlying factors. We're looking at things at a deeper level than just looking at things, for example, like on blood. So that is kind of the difference between functional medicine and conventional medicine. So it's traditional, conventional, Western medicine. We're kind of, a lot of times they're chasing after symptoms, and they're looking at, they're going to take a blood sample, for example. And a lot of times when they look at that, they can decipher like things look good or things don't look as good. And then they don't do a lot further investigating as to, okay, if things don't look good, why is it doing that? Or if things look normal, but you're having symptoms, why is it doing that? And so functional medicine goes a step further. And that's why I use functional medicine in my practice. That's what I'm certified in. I'm now board certified in it. But that's what saved me on my thyroid journey. That's what saved me with my hypothyroidism, is when I started looking further. I started looking at and asking a lot of questions. Why? Why do I have these symptoms? I didn't chase the symptoms. I went after root causes, and the symptoms began to dissipate, and I've been able to keep them away. But that's why it's so important to start investigating and look a deeper level and go a little bit further layer to start figuring out, why are these symptoms even here? That's the big difference between conventional and functional medicine, because functional medicine is going to look more at the systems as a whole. They'll look at connecting the dots instead of just like, you have this symptom, let's treat that, I'm going to give you a pill for that. I want to know why that you have that symptom, but what also is connected to that. That's where functional lab testing comes into play. So when I do functional lab testing with my clients, and what worked for me, I'm doing things like HTMA, which is hair tissue mineral analysis. That is exactly how it sounds. It's coming from the hair, but it is looking at your minerals. It's looking at your metals. Minerals are little spark plugs for your body, and they can actually determine how your body even uses your thyroid hormones. So that is why it's super essential, in my opinion, to take a look at these type of things, because they can drive what your body's doing with your thyroid hormones. And this is why a lot of people can have a very normal thyroid panel on their blood, but they're still struggling with symptoms because they're not using their thyroid hormones. And we can actually see that on the HTMA. Another test that I like to use in my practice is something called Dutch, which is a dried urine test, but it's a 24-hour test where you pee on these little strips basically, but you do it over the course of 24 hours. So then we get a better read of what your sex hormones are doing and what your adrenals are doing. So your cortisol pattern. Cortisol should be different at different times of the day. So if they check your blood at 7 a.m. or 3 p.m., it's going to be very different. So it's hard to say, like, does my cortisol look normal if you're not checking it over the course of 24 hours? I also like to use the Dutch because it looks like metabolites. So it looks at how things are broken down, all your hormones, your sex hormones, your progesterone, testosterone, estrogen, even DHEA, and then it takes a deeper dive into your cortisol and your melatonin. So it looks a deeper level than just like, oh, I don't think it's your adrenals because your cortisol looks great on blood. Well, again, it's going to depend on different times of the day, and maybe you're making enough cortisol, but you're not using it. You can't see that on blood testing. And so that's why I like to look at it way deeper and doing something like the dried urine test. And we can also see your sex hormones. So maybe you have a good amount of estrogen, but you're metabolizing it inappropriately. Or maybe your progesterone is going down the wrong pathways. I want to see the pathways because that gives me a better idea then as to why you have these symptoms. Another test that's very helpful as well that I use a lot in my practice particularly because I work with a lot of people who have slow thyroid stuff, is looking at their gut health. So I do stool testing. So many things, what's going on in the gut can be a trigger for why you have thyroid symptoms. Could be a trigger for your actual disease. If you have hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, like 95% of people with Hashimoto's have something called leaky gut. A lot of times there could be pathogens, poor digestion, things like that, that are actually triggering Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism. So I always like to get a baseline and looking at gut health, because there's so much connection to what's going on with your sex hormones, what's going on with your thyroid hormone conversion, because 20% happens in the gut. What's going on with, if you're taking thyroid medication, are you absorbing it? Are you using it? So getting a better read. But again, you can't see this on blood. So this is why I feel like it's so essential to look at deeper levels, to take a bigger step. If you are one of those who are like, I have all these thyroid symptoms, but they keep telling me that everything looks normal, ask the questions why. Why are these symptoms here? This is exactly what I had to do on my journey. I am now going on 9 years. I've been certified in this for 9 years. I got board certified in it this year. But I have now been symptom free since I got certified. I don't have thyroid symptoms anymore. Do I have hypothyroidism? Yeah, I still have the disease, but I would say it's like so-called remission, because I don't have to struggle with it anymore. But it's because I took all these steps with looking at deeper levels as to why my body was doing this. Why did I have hypothyroidism in the first place? Why do I have these symptoms in the first place? That's how a lot of people make more permanent changes, and they can get to the bottom of their symptoms, because maybe it isn't a true thyroid issue. Maybe it's all the other things underlying that are making your thyroid do that. And some people don't even need thyroid medication in that instance, because it's more of the things underlying that are doing it. Some people still need medication. I am one of those where I take a little low dose still, but my dosage has dropped dramatically over the years because of all the healing I've done and all the root cause investigation and figuring out what was actually underlying that was creating these symptoms and making things worse. So definitely let me know if you have questions. I know it can be a little bit confusing when you're trying to figure out what's the difference with conventional and functional medicine. It is not easy to find functional medicine doctors. I'll say, like, here where I live, we don't have very many. That's why there's a lot of practitioners like myself who are certified now in functional medicine and can help you along the way. And then, like I said, if you have questions with the testing, what that's all about, how I go about that in my program as well, let me know on that. And I will see you on the next video. Bye.